Well, hundreds turned out for Stephon Clark's funeral on Thursday. The 22-year-old was shot repeatedly by Sacramento police officers who mistook his phone for a gun. Here's Jamie Yuccas.
You thought I was worth saving.
In a memorial service that was somber, uplifting,
I am louder,
and at times chaotic.
The Clark family will never die.
Family members and clergy, including the Reverend L. Sharpton, eulogized 22-year-old Stephon Clark.
This is about justice. This is about standing with people with courage.
What do we want? Justice! Where do we want it? Now!
It's been nearly 2 weeks of unrest in Sacramento since the shooting death of Clark.
Show me your hands! Gun!
An unarmed black man by 2 police officers. The officers were responding to complaints of someone breaking car windows. They chased Clark into a backyard that turned out to be his grandmother's.
He had almost as many bullets put into him as years that he had on Earth.
The interfaith service highlighted community frustrations that Clark was shot 20 times. And when backup arrived, officers muted their body cameras. Since Clark's death, there have been daily protests, which in recent days have grown louder.
Those protests have shut down 2 Sacramento Kings games this week. To make sure it doesn't happen a third time, the teams brought in these 6-foot-tall fences, steel barricades, and metal detectors.
While the Sacramento shooting remains under investigation, an analysis by the Washington Post found that out of the 253 fatalities this year from police shootings, 8 have been unarmed.
This is not a Sacramento fight anymore. This is a national fight. Stephon has woke up the nation.
DeMarco, we just found out that a few blocks from here at the district attorney's office, there's about 100 protesters that are gathered. They want charges filed against the 2 police officers. This is the 3rd time they've gone to her office. We also were told that in just a little while now, Reverend L. Sharpton will be there to speak to those protesters. So far, everything has been peaceful. In the past, those protesters have left the district attorney's office and then come here to Kings Arena.
So many stories, and it keeps happening again and again. Jamie, a couple of questions for you. You mentioned the Sacramento Kings. Protesters have interrupted their games this week. How is the team reacting to this situation?
So I have to tell you, in order to ease tensions right now, the team has actually partnered with Black Lives Matter and some other groups. They've also set up some funding for Stephon Clark's 2 sons who are left behind. They're hoping that that will maybe calm some of the angst here in Sacramento. They see it as an opportunity to engage with the crowds who have been showing up. As I said, there's about 100 protesters right now, about 5 blocks away or so. In the past, those 2 games that have shut down, they've then come here, and that's when things have gotten a little rowdy, but there's been no violence by any means. The protests have been mostly peaceful. But because this is the 3rd game that it could end up impacting, that's where the team went ahead, put up these barricades. And as you can see behind me, lots of police presence tonight. If people show up, there are a number of SWAT team officers and police cruisers up and down and around the arena right now.
Yeah, we know that situations like this can get out of control when people are trying to voice their concerns. A couple of more questions for you. What steps is the city taking to ensure public safety? I know you talked about the barricades, and we can see the police cars where you are standing.
Yeah, I can tell you that's really, they want to allow people to express kind of their angst and their anger and do it in a peaceful way. And so they're allowing that to happen. They just don't want anything to spark and get out of control. I will say the family also in the last few days has said that they appreciate the protesters, but as we were leading into the funeral today, that's when the family really started being vocal about how they wanted things to just kind of be a celebration of Stephon Clark's life and not get to the point that it has in the past, the last couple of days. So we had originally heard that there wouldn't be any marches or protests today. That has now changed course a little bit. I think that happened at the funeral where Reverend L. Sharpton did take a tone of saying that we would not as a nation forget Stephon Clark, that he was going to keep his name in the headlines, he was going to work with the family, and I think it did end up rallying some of those people who have been feeling that tension to come out and express themselves again today.
So what exactly are the protesters demanding right now?
They want charges filed against these two officers. That's why they specifically have been going to the district attorney's office at this point. There were 20 shots fired, and as we talked about, there's been no information given as to why those police officers then, when other responding officers got there, turned off those body cameras. So they want answers to that. They want autopsy results released. They want to see other cameras if they were in the area, or squad car cameras, that footage released. But specifically, they want charges filed against these officers. We've seen in a number of cases where charges have not been filed, or if they have been filed, police officers, when they go to trial, have not been fired, and they have sometimes, in some cases, had to be rehired back onto the force. So they're hoping that these two officers never have to work again. And at this point in time, the police department has not released the officers who were involved in this case. They have not released their names.
This story is far from over, and the investigation continues. All right, Jamie Yuccas in Sacramento, California. Jamie, thank you.